What's up, duelists? Yesterday's RBET Rulers Invitational Tournament was not just an 11-hour tournament with the top 42 players in the world competing for over $400. It was the culmination of everyone who's worked on this format's efforts over the last year. It was this really, really beautiful event filled with, honestly, the best Yu-Gi-Oh gameplay I've ever seen. Before we get into the top 8 lists, if you haven't already watched the VOD, I would highly suggest doing it. Some of the best gameplay I've ever seen. Don't spoil yourself by watching this video quite yet. And also, I think every single person who had a chance to enter this event has, I guess, merit in their deck list. So I've made every single deck list from this event public in the really big Yu-Gi-Oh Discord in the description below. That being said, special thanks to Diamond Dude and to Striker and to Frog Slicer who helped out with this event. And special thanks to everyone else who just, is part of the community, because this event wouldn't happen without you guys. You guys are just as important as everyone else in the community, and it's insane how much people like playing this format and like playing the game, because I really like it, and it's cool that we all get to share it together and share these moments. Like, wow, yesterday's top 8 was just so insane. Without further ado, let's just get into the top 8 lists. I mean, as you can see right here, this is the first of our top 8 lists. Silchas Ruin at 7th place. The way double elimination works is there's 2 players at 7th and there's 2 players at 5th. This was a double elimination tournament. Silchas was the highest seed going into this tournament. He previously had 3 RBET tops, which is an insane number. The fact that he is consistent enough to top 3 different tournaments with, honestly, a different deck every single round is crazy powerful. Crazy powerful. This deck list is his signature Diva Zombie deck list. This is the deck list that a lot of people, or very similar deck list, is that a lot of people were playing at YCS Pasadena and crushing a lot of side events with. This is one of the scariest combo decks in the format. The way it works is, of course, you get a Goblin Zombie in play, you normal summon a Deep Sea Diva, and that's 2 level 6s with a +1 and a bouncer too, I believe, which is really, really strong. Factor in any sort of broken extender like Dark Arm Dragon or Return or Call of the Haunted or Book of Life, and all of a sudden you're looking at an OTK. Foolish Burial, Future Fusion, these guys help you set up. I mean, the deck list is pretty straightforward. I feel like there's not much to explain in the main deck other than he's just playing the best cards for this deck. In the side deck, he's got some of the trap cards that can maybe be a bit more narrow, like Dust Tornado, Bottomless, and Dimensional Prison. Dust Tornado in the main also helping him pull off some combos. It makes sense, especially in a meta where the predicted field was a lot of Blackwings. There wasn't as many Blackwings as people thought there was going to be. Most of the top players, well, there was a lot of Blackwings, but most of the top players had plans for it. And it looks like, honestly, Silchas Ruin had a plan for it, which was Phoenix Wing, Dust Tornado for the oppression, and then just go over the top with a busted combo that the Blackwing player can't keep up with. In the sideboard, you got Cyber Dragon, DD Crow, pretty much your catch-alls. He's got Skill Drain, which is honestly a card that he's been using to great success in all of his tournament victories, I think. Maybe some of them, I don't remember. Just don't fact check me. 2 Light Imprisoning Mirror for the fairies and Lightsworn decks, and 1 Lightning Vortex as a catch-all. The extra deck is pretty tight on space, but he's made room for 1 Gaia Knight as an extra level 6 in case he needs to go into this in some of the OTK lines. Amazing deck, and honestly an amazing year for Silchas Ruin. An argument could be made that he is the best player in this format just because of his consistency and because of the work he's done on his decks. He's an incredible deck builder and an incredible player, and he's just a blast to watch. So definitely catch his matches on stream, and I'm excited to see more from him moving forward. Okay, next 7th place deck list, Beast Mode. Beast Mode was the 2nd seed going into this tournament, so it's no surprise that these guys, I mean, they've topped so many RBETs. Beast Mode topped 3 RBETs. So it's no surprise that these guys both had, success in this tournament as well. Like, just very, very consistent, very, very strong players. Also, on Diva Zombies, a few differences. Actually, a few pretty big differences. Beast Mode is down to 1 Mystic Tomato. He prefers Pyramid Turtle plus Ill Blood. This gives him some play under different situations, more or less, where you can grab a beater under Pyramid Turtle, under Royal Oppression. That's his kind of way of dealing with that. He's also on the 1 Dust Tornado in the main. He's not playing Future Fusion or the hero stuff. He is playing Necrogardna. I really do like Necrogardna in this deck. I think it's a good tech. I think it's cool because Necrogardna plus Bryonic is actually really, really hard to deal with. So you can make an early Bryonic and you can pitch Necrogardna, bounce something, and your opponent's just like, oh no, I can't play a card. I can't shove an attack over the Bryonic because they'll just negate the attack and then bounce my counterplay, which is usually a Synchro Monster. And it's just a great card in this deck. I mean, between Phoenix Wing, between Zombie Master, and of course Bryonic, there's lots of ways to make sure it gets in the grave. You can always Foolish Burial it if you want. Gives your burial from the different dimension a little bit of extra value. Leaning more into the zombie stuff than into the hero stuff in this Diva list, but very, very solid list. In the sideboard, he's got 2 Sirokkos and an extra Caius. I'm curious why he was siding the third Caius. I kind of get why you would want a third Caius in some matchups, but I wonder if this was just kind of a catch-all sideboard. I don't know. That's something I'm curious about. Beast Mode, leave it in the comments below. 2 Smashing Grounds to help against Vanity's Fiend and Fossil Dino. Those cards can really mess with this deck. 2 DD Crow, 2 Cyber Dragon. You're seeing a pattern. Also 1 copy of Soul Release to help make sure that the graveyard strategies did not give him any trouble. Between 2 DD Crow, Soul Release, and 2 Book of Life, it's pretty easy for this deck to attack unfair graveyard strategies. And that's part of the strength of zombies, is that if you're playing an unfair graveyard strategy, you're going to have sort of a tense matchup against this deck just because of the nature of those cards. 2D Prison, of course, Dust Tornado, and a couple of Pulling the Rug for Monarchs. His extra deck is different, naturally, because he doesn't have the hero stuff, so he has more space, but he elected not to play Armory Arm, which is very interesting, because he is on Mind Control and Brain Control, and the premier tuners in this deck are level 2. So one of the ways this deck can break up the dupe block is by taking one and, syncering with it into an Armory Arm. So I'm wondering why he elected not to do that in favor of something like, Red Dragon Archfiend. I wonder how much Red Dragon Archfiend comes up as opposed to something like Armory Arm. In any case, congrats to Beast Mode. Again, an amazing year from Beast Mode. This would be his 4th top, and that's just insane. That's just crazy. Like, honestly, some of the best gameplay I've seen. So, congrats to Beast Mode. Very well done. He had to beat some insane players to get into the top 8. I honestly very highly commend it. Highly commend it. Okay, next deck list. Xeris, also on Diva Zombies. So the first 3 deck lists in top 8. Diva Zombies. It was a good pick for this weekend. I think Diva Zombies does really well against Blackwings. I think Diva Zombies does really well against some of the unfair graveyard decks like Vayu. And then I think Diva Zombies has game against just about everything. I think it's like decent into Lightsworn. I think it's decent into what else? Everything that's not really Gladiator Beasts or Fairies. I think those 2 matchups are pretty tough. And then I also think Quick Draw is pretty tough for Diva Zombies, but not a lot of people are playing Quick Draw right now, which is interesting. I wonder if that's going to change moving forward, just because the metagame is kind of in the right spot where Blackwing players aren't maining Oppression that much, and the people who are losing to Quick Draw are not really respecting the deck that much. So I wonder if we'll see more of it. But on to Xeris' top 8. This deck list is very fire. He's got the Charge of the Light Brigade and double Raikou, as well as a Lila, as well as the Chaos Sorcerer. This is more of a Chaos Diva Zombies list. It's really cool. He's elected to play double Book of Moon as well as the main deck Fiendish Chain, which was good for him on camera. I can't knock it. In this deck, Fiendish Chain has a little bit of extra utility because if it's used and then doesn't get sent to the graveyard, you can actually bounce it with Bryonic later on to give yourself extra negates. And then on top of that, you can use it as like just a proactive way to get some of your cards into the graveyard that you may need to discard for whatever purpose. Xeris is honestly one of the best players that I've had the chances of witnessing up until he boasted an undefeated record on Dueling Book up until this tournament, which is insane. He had not lost a single online match of Yu-Gi-Oh up until this tournament. So he's clearly one of the best players. I had the pleasure of meeting him at YCS Pasadena, and amazing guy, like just very nice guy. Really, nothing but nice things to say about him. And this, this deck list is sick. In the sideboard, he's got 4 Noblements to just help with the, busted shit, like Gladiator Beast War Chariot, like Icarus Attack, and then Knock to deal with opposing Raikous, Hamsters, that kind of thing that can maybe be annoying, or Battle Recruiters from the Zombie Mirror, also annoying. He's got 2 Soul Takers as his spot removal of choice. Soul Taker does make things like Dupe Frog and Alchemist Miss Timing. The extra life points gain, there's a lot of discussion beyond that, but it worked out well for him. He's got a sideboard Zombie World for Monarch decks. This card makes it so your opponent can't tribute summon monsters that aren't zombie, which is most monsters in the format, like Caius and stuff, that you would want to tribute summon. Of course, 2 Cyber Dragon, 2 DD Crow. You're seeing a trend here, and then 2 Pulling the Rug to help deal with those unfair Monarch and Diva Hero decks. Fantastic deck list. Congratulations to Xeris. One of the best players to ever do it, undoubtedly. All of his matches on camera were just like a treat to watch. Next list. Getting into it. Getting into the heat. Getting into the real heat. Oh my goodness, this list is insane. So Mumix got his invite because there was an overflow, and then he had to play a last chance like qualifier thing. It's a long story. But a lot of people were saying, oh, Mumix is good. Mumix is good at this game. And after seeing him play in this event, I was just like, holy shit. This deck list is really based. This is like a 2022 deck list. If you look at it, you're like, nah, we're not going to brick on the spell and trap removal. We're just going to have engine cards, which are the Lightsworn cards, and then payoffs, which is JD and Christia. And that's it. And then everything else is just ways to get to the engine or ways to get to the payoffs, which is just great deck building. If I'm going to be real, this deck is like such a really good take on Christia Sworn because it ignores all of the bullshit that can get clogged in your hand alongside JD and Christia and just focuses on getting the graveyard milled and set up and then getting a boss monster down ASAP. The way this deck works is you mill cards, kind of like, Lightsworn. I don't know if you guys are familiar. And then you summon Christia or JD, and then things just go well for you from that point. And then if that doesn't work out, then you Beckoning Light and you do it again. I don't know. Really sick deck. And I love the inclusion of triple Herald of Orange Light and triple Soul of Purity and Light as well. I think Soul of Purity and Light really excels in decks like this where you're able to just shove extra pressure, and you need that extra little bit of grave control. It's also a fairy name for Herald of Orange Light and Christia. The deck boasts, I think, 14 fairies? Yeah, 14 fairies, in the main. The sideboard, he's got triple Consecrated for Blackwings. Great meta choice, honestly. Triple Thunder King Ryo. This is to help interact with unfair decks that may be trying to synchro combo you, like zombies. And then 2 Cyber Dragons, of course. Double Royal Oppression, which was killer for him in the tournament. Double Royal Decree, Space Typhoon, Heavy Storm, and Giant Trinade. 5 Spell and Trap hate cards, which is a very, modern way of building Yu-Gi-Oh decks, which is cool. I actually really like this approach. I've been talking about siding all of the spell and trap removal in back row light metas like this one, especially if you've got engines like Hamster, Raikou, Lila, where you can pretty easily play into most back row, and then on top of that, your end game just nukes the field, so you don't really need to worry about back row too much with a deck like this outside of maybe Light Imprisoning Mirror, Game 1, which is like the most insane pre that I could possibly imagine. Deck's great. The deck list looks really well tuned. Mumix is a very powerful duelist, and I'm excited to see more from him in the future. Congratulations to Mumix on making 5th place with a very, very unique Christia Lightsworn deck. Okay, next deck. 4th place, Blackwings. You couldn't have a top 8 without him. Masahiro made it into top 8 with Blackwings. A lot of cool tech in this deck. Electing to play triple Upstart Goblin to see Whirlwind as consistently as possible, down to 2 Dark Greffers from the Swedish list. Elected to main the double Royal Oppression, which I do think you have to do in Blackwings. I think one of the things about Blackwings is if you're going into a field with all the top players, the strength of the deck is Royal Oppression. Let's be real. If you don't have Royal Oppression, some matchups just get so fucking hard for this deck. Like, people, if they can synchro against you, if they can summon their boss monsters like JD and stuff against you, like uncontested, it just gets tough. So I think maining the 2 Royal Oppressions was actually a really good choice for this event, and for most events, honestly, if I'm going to be real. In the sideboard, we've got, of course, 2 Cyber Dragon, 2 DD Crow, Gores, nice sideboard choice. Bait Doll, very unique card. I do like this card a lot, especially against Blackwings. If you can force them to activate an Icarus attack, it is quite funny. It is actually quite funny. Double Knock for Raikous. Only a single deck Devastation Virus. Maybe didn't like the card so much, maybe thought he'd see it consistently enough between the 3 upstarts, maybe just honestly wasn't a fan of the card or didn't think he needed it for the fairy matchup or whatever, but I don't know. Down to 1. 2 Light Imprisoning Mirror for Lightsworn, whatever. Double Pulling the Rug, of course, for Monarchs, and double Skill Drain, which is actually, honestly, a pretty good card in this metagame, and we can see it put a couple of decks into the top 8. Okay, next deck. Congratulations to Masahiro, by the way. Very, very well done on making it all the way to the top 8 with a deck that every single person in the room had a plan for and was hating out. So, congrats. He must have played very well to make it here. Now we're getting into the real crazy shit. So, I just want you guys to know we're getting into some crazy shit. Just at this moment in time, we were watching Edison format, but now we're watching something completely different. This is a combo deck that made it to 3rd place. And you're probably looking at this like, what the fuck does this deck even do? And I'm thinking the same thing. But the way it works is you go on this really long, convoluted combo to set up Symbols of Heritage, plus Swap Frog, plus Poison Draw Frog, plus Bryonic, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. And then from there, you're able to draw your whole deck. And that's it. I mean, you just draw your whole deck. That's the whole combo. Yeah. I'm at a loss for words. I don't really know what to say. Nah, this deck is really sick. This deck is really sick. And Dimitri put in so much time. He took inspiration from a combo deck that Frog Slicer invented that utilized a similar combo, but was looking to burn out the opponents on the first turn of the game. This is more of a like synchro combo deck. Usually what you're doing is you're ending turn 1 with double Dupe Frog, double Stardust. And that's like your kind of setup. And then on the next turn of the game, you synchro into some combination of Armory Arm plus Bryonic plus Ratio, and then go for lethal. There are a couple of lethal setups in this deck that are really unique. One of the cool ones is putting 3 Armory Arms onto a Flamvel Urukizis, which allows you to OTK through Gores and Tragodia, which is fucking crazy. I mean, that's so sick. It's really nuts. The sideboard plan, he shifts into more of a Monarch controlling package to help play through all of the hateful back row that do kind of fuck this deck up. I don't know. This is just one of the best decks to play this card, 1-for-1, which is like a very broken card. If you don't open 1-for-1, there's a few ways to get the combo going, most of which involve Swap Frog and Fishborg in your opener as well. But generally speaking, if you find 1-for-1, you should be able to do some sort of combo on the first turn of the game, which sets up your graveyard in some sort of way. The cool little advantage building part of this combo, because normally Symbols of Heritage, Swap Frog, Poison Draw Frog, and Bryonic does not amass card advantage. But the way it amasses card advantage in this deck is you get this Level Eater in the graveyard, and then you bounce the Level Eater with Swap Frog, and then you discard the Level Eater with Bryonic, and then that adds up to +1s. And you know what? I'm probably the worst person to explain this deck. You can watch the games in top 8 and get a better idea of what the combos are like, and it's also commentated by one of the inventors of the deck, Frog Slicer, during top 8. So if this is a deck that interests you, one thing I will say is that this deck does take an incredibly long time to execute the combos, and if you mess up even a single step, you will get fucked. So it's really more a testament to Dimitri's skill as a player. I think he navigated this tournament immaculately. He played a lot of games and won a lot of games, which he had no business winning. I'll say that much. He had no business winning some of these games, but he stole some games. He's just goated. Dimitri's a really good player. And on top of that, he was playing the game in a timely fashion. So if you don't want to get slow play called, if you don't want to get, stalled into time in Swiss events, maybe avoid this deck. And in general, there are some time rules in place for RBETs in the future that would make this quite difficult for just an average player who isn't as goated as Dimitri to play a deck like this. But really cool deck. Really, really cool deck. And honestly, something completely new in top 8, which is one of the sickest parts of Edison, is that people are still doing totally new things and coming up with cool ways to summon Stardust Dragon, more or less. Okay, on to the top 2. The top 2, oh my goodness, second place, the GOAT, the Canadian legend, Indikid with Hero Beat. Indikid with Hero Beat. How do I feel about Indikid's Hero Beat deck list? Diva Hero Beat deck list. He's got the Divas, he's got Double Gilman, he's got Compulsory, he's got Phoenix Wing, he's also got Hero Blast, he's got one Upstart Goblin, like an absolute god, he's got the Alias Spark, he's got Stratos Honest, he's got everything you could possibly want in this deck list, and then in the sideboard, he's got a full stun package to come in against the decks that it needs to come in against. It's no doubt in my mind that Indikid is one of the best players to ever play this game. I mean, he's absolutely goated. I may talk a lot of shit, and I may have an undefeated record against him lifetime, but he is actually one of the best players to ever play this game, and the fact that he got second place just makes me very happy and very proud. Congratulations, Indikid. This deck list is very clean. It looks like just a consistent take on the Diva Hero Beat deck list. We did see him brick in a couple of games where he was drawing multiple Gilman, but he battled his way out of it, and he was able to beat, honestly, a lot of great players, including taking down Dimitri's combo deck, thanks to his powerful suite of back row. including his one Royal Oppression that did a lot of work for him. And of course, you do have the Fossil Dynas, which completely shut off Frog combo decks like that. The Frog combo deck, again, taking advantage of a lot of Blackwing players cutting Royal Oppression from their main deck and being very back row light. The metagame right now is very back row light. The second people start playing trap cards, decks like the Frog deck are going to struggle, and that's exactly what happened in the top 8. Spoiler alert. I mean, if you go and watch the match, you'll see exactly how quickly the Frog deck can crumble into like 1 or 2 key back row pieces. So, yeah, I mean, just fucking fantastic performance from Indicate. There's really not much to say about this deck list. I do like the double Android. Oftentimes you are going into Android turn 1 because of Honest and because of the life gain. I do like, including all these synchro monsters. I'm not sure if Gishilnadon's ever going to come up more than Ally of Justice Catastor, seeing as honestly no one is playing Rivalry or Gozen right now. I think just having 2 Catastor is more important against stuff like Lightsworn and Fairies, especially moving forward, especially, spoiler alert, after seeing what the first place deck was. But just fucking goated run. Seriously, I'm so fucking impressed by this. Like, this is just such a cool deck, and Indicate did such a good job. And then first place, man. First place, baby. First place. Best deck in the format, baby. Best player in the format. ProStorm. Dude, ProStorm's the GOAT. We had a lot of correspondence before this event. We talked about this deck a lot. And I just want to say, this is probably the most impressive tournament run of anyone I've ever seen in my entire life. First off, he's not even in his home. He's traveling. He's currently on mobile. So he has to play on Dueling Book on his phone. Second off, the time zone he's in, the tournament started at 1 a.m. Completely inverse from his sleep schedule. Third off, the tournament ended up being 11 hours because of certain decks, I'm not going to say which ones, taking quite a long time. And this is one of the hardest decks to pilot when you just have to grind out every single game. And every single game was like so insane. Like, dude, the fucking top 8 matches, without getting into too many spoilers if you haven't already watched it, the OTK with the Ancient Sacred Wyvern, like, what the fuck? Oh my god, there was some crazy shit that went down. I'll just say it, that shit was nuts. Definitely an insane performance. And the deck, honestly, a beautiful list. Some of his adaptations, the main deck Dust Tornado, the main deck Legacy of Yatagrasu's, really help the deck gain card advantage in positions where you normally wouldn't. Basically, use Legacy of Yatagrasu to bait opponent sweepers, like Heavy Storm, or bait attacks into your Gores, or bait Icarus attacks, and just get +1s. And this deck with a +1 is, like, so different than this deck without a +1. When this deck has a +1, it feels unbeatable. Just because every single one of your cards is going to trade so favorably, if you have that advantage, your opponent can never break through. They can just never break through. Between Herald of Orange Light, between DD Warrior Lady, between these monsters, making it so difficult to attack you. Between, Cyber Valley, between Freed popping stuff, between Honest, the most defensive hand traps in the game. And then, of course, having the power of Return for late game and the Return Cyber Valley Infinite looming. You can't win a late game against this deck. You really don't want to give it +1s. So you're scared to go Typhoon into the back row blind. You're scared to do Raikou into the back row blind. And it just creates a lot of favorable situations for this deck. In the sideboard, there's a lot of stuff we talked about. Honestly, really happy that he went with our last minute choice of Breaker plus Compulsory as a way to combat the Vayu Turbo matchups. Breaker and Compulsory are both really good cards in that matchup specifically. Breaker allows you to play favorably into both Hamster and Raikou, as well as Royal Oppression and back rows that may give you some trouble. It's an out to Light Mirror, which came up for him multiple times in top 8 alone. And Compulsory is just a way to get in game shots and protect your recruiters and deal with synchro monsters that may be a problem. Elected to play 1 Royal Oppression, huge card in the meta, of course. Got the Mask of Restricts for Frogs. This also came up for him. This is probably the best floodgate against Frogs. And also it's interesting too because you board it in because Frogs can't really realistically preemptively board in Twister against you. So if you do draw it, they're drawing pretty light to outs to it in game 2. So it can steal you game 2 pretty much guaranteedly against Frogs unless they're preemptively boarding in Twister, which again is a high risk thing for them to do. So it's one of those sort of interesting ways to steal a matchup that's otherwise pretty unfavorable. Double Dust Tornado, again, more outs just to deal with the Light Mirror. My Body's a Shield is an answer to Deck Devastation Virus, as well as Icarus Attack, as well as all the sweepers, and, some things like Absolute Zero that cause this deck a lot of trouble, as well as Dark Arm Dragon, too. This card definitely does a good job at responding to Dark Arm Dragon priority, activate, target a monster. You activate my body as a shield, you feel like a god. Double Consecrated Light for the Blackwing matchup. We saw him win a match against Blackwings 2-0 where his opponent, one of the best players in the game, one of the top players, obviously, because only top players in this tournament, opened double Whirlwind, and he still won game one because the recruiters are just so insane against Blackwings. The matchup is just crazy unlosable. Like, I don't fucking get how people still... agenda aside. Pro Storm's the fucking GOAT. He's the fucking GOAT. He was one of the top seeds going into this tournament. He had multiple tops. He's had multiple tops with different decks. This deck was one of the ones he topped with. What else is there to say about the list? What else is there to say about the tournament? I'm like racking my brain right now. I'm still processing how insane Grand Finals was. That was one of the best games of Yu-Gi-Oh! I've ever seen. I was burnt the fuck out because I've been live for 10 hours, but like, that was one of the best games of Yu-Gi-Oh! I ever seen. Pro Storm versus Indicate in Grands was like, that was crazy. That game was crazy. The game 3 where it was like, there was one point in the game where Pro Storm had 12 cards and Indicate had 9 cards. And it was just like the craziest back and forth exchange I've ever seen of like this controlling like sort of like matchup where they're like trading removal spells, playing through all of the resources, and eventually at the end of all of it, Pro Storm managed to run out every single resource, and it was just, you just gotta watch the game. I can't even explain it. I can't even explain what happened in the game. You just gotta watch it. You gotta watch the VOD. It's so insane. In any case, if you guys want to see the deck list, join the description in the description below. Join the Discord. Fuck, I can't even speak, dude. I can't even speak. The tournament left me speechless. It was so crazy. Holy shit. That was insane. That was a real treat. In any case, I'll see you guys in the next vid. Peace out.